Hello, I'm Victoria weather meteorologist Ryan Henning with a look at today's weather in Ocala, Florida, as well as providing a little forecast for the next couple of days. In my lap, I have Mariah, the weather puppy. She's going to be looking out the window and whining about the birds she sees outside, but maybe she'll provide us a little insight in the situation going on in Ocala. She will be more than happy to tell you right now that the birds she's seeing outside here are robins, which of course everybody knows is a sign of spring. I'm sure she will be jumping on camera before too much longer. She's fighting me right now. Oh, there she is. Hey. All right, Mariah, we've got to talk about Ocala. As you can see, viewers and Mariah, we have a look at the radar right now in Ocala, Florida. It's right north of Orlando. There's a cold front that's running through the Carolinas. It's actually a little bit further north than all this precip. There's a surface trough that's running through eastern Georgia and on the South Carolina border that's triggering all those thunderstorms. But it's pretty quiet right now in the Florida Peninsula. So that's good news for people in Ocala that have outdoor activities planned. This boundary is kind of dissipating. There's a secondary low that's back over Texas that's going to be taking over the next several hours, and it'll start to erode this front, but it won't kick out much of the moisture in the southeastern United States, which is a holy smokes, it must be a zoo out there right now, Mariah. So since there's not going to be frontal passage, it's not really going to quiet down, and there's a developing low. You can see all the moisture up in North Carolina. There's a developing low up there as well, which is going to associate with this trough and keep things fairly active there. So let's take a look at the HRRR model, which has been the best over the southern United States the last several days. It's already looping here on the National Weather Service site. And you can see that it might not be as good over the eastern United States as we'd like, but it's doing a very good job, really, for southeastern convection. It's notoriously difficult to get an accurate forecast for the weather in the southeastern United States this time of year, but it's doing a decent enough job. You can see we've got all the moisture once it reloads through eastern Georgia and South Carolina, and it's fairly inactive over Florida, and that seems to be the way the trend is going to continue if you believe her, which frankly I do. So I would say it's going to be fairly calm overnight tonight. There may be an isolated thunderstorm in the Florida peninsula, but all things considered, it's not going to be widespread thunderstorms over central Florida tonight. Now, that runs counter to the bigger models. Ooh. Oh, yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, Mariah is trying to get away from the GFS and the NAM, which I think is a good strategy. You can see it's fairly active. This is the GFS that I've got loaded on top, and the NAM isn't much calmer. And now we've actually got Charlie running around on the floor. But you can see it's fairly active over the Florida Peninsula. If you can't see it, it's right down there. And that, as we've seen with the current radar as well as the HRRR, it's not the way things are going. So I'm going to tend to throw those out. I think there's definitely a chance for an isolated thunderstorm, but it's not going to be the gully washer that these two models project. I think what we're going to look at is a typical Florida spring-summer type of day where onshore flow, sea breeze effect type stuff is going to trigger a few isolated thunderstorms. They're not going to be widespread. Not every city in Florida is going to see a thunderstorm tomorrow or the day after. But I think for both days, there's going to be a chance at an isolated thunderstorm. I would say it's only going to be about 20 to 30% that, say, the city of Ocala sees something. But whether it be Ocala or Orlando or Deltona or something in central Florida, they will see a thunderstorm. So I'm going to have to issue a forecast that says isolated thunderstorms. I think that's what everybody's going to do, especially if you look at the GFS and the NAM, which are usually two of the more trustworthy, longer range models, despite how wrong they appear to be in this instance. I think everybody's going to have the threat for thunderstorms. Some might say scattered, some might say widespread. I think they're only going to be isolated. I think there's a pretty decent chance that Ocala stays dry either tomorrow or Friday, if not both days. But they're going to be in the area, and you gotta put it in the forecast. So temperatures this time of year, they're not going to be really affected by air masses. It's just pretty much standard in the mid to upper 80s every day. They're at about 84 right now, and I can't imagine it's going to be too different than that the next 2 days. So I'll say the forecast high is going to be in the mid to upper 80s. The forecast low is probably going to be around 70, especially with so much convection in the area. There's going to be enough clouds that it will prevent temperatures from dropping off too dramatically tonight. But if you want to look at all of the numbers, they're going to be below this video in the Ocala, Florida post. I will have a link on YouTube if you find us through that way. But that's going to do it for Mariah the weather puppy, who's finally falling asleep, and Charlie, who's still running around, and me, Ryan Henning, with Victoria Weather.